So you clicked on this video, which probably means that you were always interested in music production, but you just don't know where to start. That was me over 10 years ago, and now I'm able to do music production full time. I'm gonna teach you exactly how to get started and what I wish someone taught me 10 years ago to speed up the process. So congratulations, you've officially taken the first step on your music production journey, with this video being the first step in a complete guide I've designed to take you from beginner to advanced. I'll be walking you through every single step of the process, so make sure to follow along and take notes. Now, in order to get started producing, all you're really gonna need is 3 things. Your device, which can be a laptop, computer, or even your phone. Your audio device, which can be headphones, earphones, or speakers, but as a beginner, I would just stick to using headphones or earphones. And your DAW or DAW, which is short for Digital Audio Workstation. And this is the software you're gonna be using to make all of your music. Choosing your DAW is like choosing your starter Pokemon. There are 3 or 4 main ones, each of which are amazing in their own way. For the series, I'll be using FL Studio, but you can follow along in any DAW of your choice. I'll try not to judge. Let's go download FL. Let's head over to the ImageLine website. We can just type in FL Studio in Google search and click on the first link. The link will also be included in the description below. Click on this download icon and you can try FL Studio for free. Although I do recommend buying FL Studio so you can save your projects and get access to multiple features. Go ahead and download FL, just click save, and go ahead and double click the application. You're gonna keep clicking next and I agree until you get to the end. Okay, once that's done, hit finish. Go ahead and look for FL Studio. On PC, we hit the Windows button and we type in FL Studio. And FL Studio 2025 should pop up. Go ahead and click on it. If you're on Mac, you can press Command Space and type in FL Studio 2025 and press enter. So right off the bat, we're going to be met with a lot of different windows, buttons, and icons, and it'll resemble something like a spaceship cockpit. But lucky for you, I came prepared, and I'm ready to help you steer the ship. I realize I can't talk like that. I just broke the helmet. Not the best start, but I promise you, we're gonna fly this ship together. Okay, fix it. Anyways, this is what FL is gonna look like when you first open it, and yours might open with the default template. And if that happens, you simply need to go to File in this top left corner, click New from Template, and click Empty. You can just go ahead and click No, and now you should be on the screen. The first thing to note is this hint panel up here. This will tell you what your mouse is hovering over and give a brief description, as well as providing hotkeys of what that button or icon does. So if I hover over here, you can see it says browser/plugin picker, and it'll also show you the hotkey to open it. Up here we have some basic controls. We have the play button, stop button, record button, and here we can control the BPM or beats per minute or the tempo of your song. In order to change this, click and hold the big numbers on the left and not the small decimal numbers to the right. Go ahead and click, drag and hold, and drag down to decrease the BPM and up to increase the BPM. I'm gonna set it to 130 for now. This is a song position and it'll tell you where in the song you're at based on this timeline that we have here. So if I click over here, this will tell us that we're on the 3rd bar. Up here, this icon will let you play instruments using your computer keyboard as if it's a real keyboard. And it's a toggle, so you can turn it off or you can turn it on. This is the metronome, which will help you keep count of your song based on your BPM. So if I click this on and I press play, it'll keep the rhythm of your song. Let's press stop and let's go ahead and turn it off for now. Over here, we have pattern mode and song mode, which we'll get into later. But all you need to know is that when you're on song mode and you press play, it'll play your song in what's called a playlist, which we'll also get into more later. And if you click on pattern mode, it'll select and play the individual patterns or loops you create. Now let's get to these icons over here. These 5 icons are what I call the icons of death, each of which serve different purposes, but are extremely useful to understand how they work and the order in which they work. They are basically windows that appear on your screen and you can minimize them or maximize them. You can even resize them, make them smaller, have multiple windows open at once, and if you right click on any of them, it'll bump it to the front. I like to have the playlist always maximized and have everything else as a smaller window. Congratulations, you managed to make it past maybe 80% of all people who open FL Studio for the first time. and manage to not rage quit from the icons of death. If you learn to harness their power and use them to their full capacity, then you yourself can truly be the captain of your own ship. Now, in order to understand these 5 icons of death, we gotta switch gears and wear a different hat. We gotta treat our workstation now as a kitchen, because now we're getting ready to cook. Hold up.
Smoke weed every day.
Before we start cooking, it's important we get ourselves familiar with our workstation and really know where everything is and what everything does. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so here's a whole overview of our kitchen. And by the way, I'm going to be providing a free document for you to follow along that has all of this information. Link in the description below. Alright, let's start off with the browser, aka the pantry. The browser's icon looks like this. And if you click it, you'll see it's the sidebar to the left side. It's your library or collection of all of the files that you need to make music. So if the browser is a pantry, then what are the ingredients? The ingredients would be any sample, which can be drums, vocals, instrument loops or one-shots, or any other audio file you can think of. And plugins can be synthesizers, instruments, or even effects. So when picking things in the browser and grabbing all of our ingredients, we call this process sound selection. And we're gonna need a place to put them all, and that place is gonna be our channel rack. You can think of the channel rack as our set of ingredients or our cutting board where we can prepare all of our ingredients. So let's go ahead and open the channel rack up by pressing this icon right here. And as you can see, all we have is a sampler. So let's go ahead and load some sounds into our channel rack. We can go into the browser here and click packs. This is where all of the samples that come with FL Studio are. If we go down and press drums, we can see all of the different drum types. Let's go ahead and click kicks. We can click on each one to hear how they sound. You can also use your arrow keys to go up or down to quickly scroll through the sounds and preview them. I'm going to choose this one. In order to load this sound, all we need to do is drag it into our channel rack or cutting board. Let's continue sound selecting. I'm going to look for a hat. And again, we can use the arrow keys to quickly scroll through and hear each sound. I like the 909 open hat. Again, let's drag and drop it. And we can collapse it one more time by clicking again. Now let's look for a snare. Let's scroll down. I'm gonna choose the 909 drum sample again. And lastly, let's look for a crash, which should be in the cymbals. Go ahead and drag and drop it. Alright, now that we have our drums loaded up, let's build a quick drum beat. Whenever you click one of these markers, it will light up, which means you've placed that sample in your sequencer. And for the kick, we're going to select all of these points so that when we press play or spacebar, we have a kick loop. Let's go ahead and add a snare to every second and fourth beat, which should sound like this. We can spice it up with an offbeat open hat. And let's add a crash on the downbeat for impact. So now all together it sounds like this. So this pattern so far sounds pretty good, but the crash and open hat are a little bit too loud. Now in the channel rack, you can adjust basic controls, which are volume and panning. With panning, meaning moving a sound that's in the center by default, either left or right. So let's lower the volume, which is this right knob of the crash, maybe to like 12 o'clock. And maybe we can lower the volume of the open hat around 12 o'clock too. Let's go ahead and rename our pattern by right-clicking over here, clicking rename in color, and let's call it drums. Maybe we'll make it blue by clicking here and pressing here. Go ahead and click accept and enter to confirm your changes, or clicking this check mark. Perfect, now we have a drum beat. Now the channel rack is perfect for basic ingredients such as drums, because with drums, you don't need to change notes or make a melody with it. But what about more complex ingredients, such as a piano? This leads us to our next icon, which is called the piano roll. You can think of the piano roll as the cook zone. This is where you actually cook the ingredients that need to be cooked, unlike the raw ingredients that can just be eaten on their own. Like the drums, you can think of the drums just as a salad. So let's go ahead and cook up our main course. Let's go ahead and create a new pattern for the piano. Click up here and let's type in piano. I'm gonna color this one red. If we press this plus icon here, we can see a lot of different generators. which are instruments or synthesizers that actually play sound. Let's press FL keys for a basic piano. Now we can make sure to click this toggle icon up here if it's not already on yet. This way we can play notes on our computer keyboard like we talked about earlier. If we press all the buttons from Q to I, it'll play the C major scale. Now we won't be getting into music theory in this video, but we will be in future videos, so make sure to click subscribe and enable notifications to stay tuned for when that drops. Now let's think of a quick piano loop to go along with our drums. Let's click the channel rack. You can right click and press piano roll, and this will bring up the actual cook zone where we can draw notes and make melodies or chord progressions. Now to add notes, all we need to do is click and hold and drag on the note that we want to leave the note on. Let's add another note on top of this C. Maybe we can put it on G. And let's add some more flavor by adding a B. So now your chord should sound like this. Now to select all of them, all we need to do is press Control on PC or Command on Mac and click, drag, and hold to highlight all of the notes. Once all of the notes are highlighted, we can elongate all of them at the same time by going to one of these, and once you see this arrow icon, we can click, drag, and hold to the right to make it a full bar long. Let's give it some rhythm to add some groove and danciness. Let's go ahead and shorten it. And if we hold shift while all of the notes are highlighted and click, hold, and drag to the right or left, it'll duplicate that series of notes. Let's do so one more time. Let's go ahead and select all of these by holding Control or Command on Mac and clicking and dragging to highlight all of them. So now we can hold shift, click, hold, and drag to the right to duplicate all of them. And this will save a lot of time once you get used to. Now our pattern sounds like this. Let's go ahead and highlight all of these notes one more time. And again, duplicate it by holding shift and dragging to the right. And once all of the notes are in place, if we press shift up arrow, it'll move it by one semitone. So let's put this bottom note here all the way to F. Now we have a 1-4 chord progression, giving it a really happy vibe. If we right click on the piano roll window, it'll deselect all of the notes that you have highlighted. Now what if we want to give it a little bit more life, because right now it sounds pretty robotic, playing at the same volume the whole time. That's where this bottom part here comes into play. Now we have additional controls on top of the ones that we learned about in the channel rack that controls the velocity or volume of each of the individual notes on the piano roll. And now because all of these notes are stacked on top of each other, if I adjust it, it'll adjust all of the notes there. But let's say I only want to adjust the volume of these top two notes. Then we would press Control or Command to highlight these two and then drag it up here. So now only these two notes are going to be played at a higher velocity or volume, and this lower note will be played at a lower velocity. Notice the difference? As you can see, this bottom note here is a little bit dimmer, meaning it has less velocity. But what if we want to apply this modified note to the rest of our pattern? We can simply delete the note that should be replaced by right-clicking and holding shift and dragging this note over. Another way to mass delete multiple notes is if you Control, click, drag to select this note and keep holding Control but hold shift at the same time and click and drag to select multiple notes. And then we can press delete to delete both of the notes. So using the same logic, let's again hold Control Shift to select multiple notes. Let's hold Shift, click, and drag to duplicate, and then let's let go of Shift to be able to move it up and down. Now our pattern is fully updated with varying velocities, giving it a more human feel. Alright, here's a bonus tip. Let's go back into the channel rack. If you click on any of these ingredients in the channel rack, for example the crash, you can see there's a lot of knobs or parameters that we can adjust to tweak the sound. If it's a sample, which the crash is, it'll look like this. And since we already changed the volume in the channel rack, as you can see the volume knob here is already set to 12 o'clock. It has a lot of different in-depth controls, but we'll be reviewing that in a future video. Let's go ahead and close this crash out, and let's go back into the piano. Click FL keys. And when it comes to generators, which are synthesizers or instruments, they'll usually have their own special set of knobs. So let's go ahead and play the pattern and tweak the sound how we want to. This process is called sound design. It's how we pre-prepare the ingredients before we cook them. Alright, now that we cooked up a piano loop and a drum loop, now we gotta put it together using the next feature called the playlist. You can think of the playlist as plating or presentation. Alright, since we already have the playlist maximized, we can remove all these other windows by right-clicking the playlist. In this left view here, we have an overview of our patterns that we created. And as you can see, the piano is currently selected, indicated by the green outline, as well as the pattern picker here saying piano. If we click and hold into the playlist, we can drag it all the way to the left to make sure it's in line with the measures. We can place multiple by clicking and dragging again and fitting it to there. It's almost like Legos or building blocks. And what's cool is all of the same techniques that you learned in the piano roll also apply in the playlist. So if we hold Control or Command in Mac and click, hold, and drag, we can highlight both of these piano patterns. And if we hold Shift, click and drag to the right, we can duplicate it to make a full 8-bar loop. Now let's go ahead and select the drums. Again, we can either click over here in order to select the drums, or if the piano is loaded again and we go to the pattern picker, we can right click and choose which pattern we want to input into the playlist, or we can simply click, hold, and drag up or down to pick a different pattern. We can also use the scroll wheel up or down to also pick a different pattern. Now that the drums are selected, let's go ahead and place it by clicking and holding and letting go when it's in line with the grid. We can duplicate it again by selecting. And this time, instead of holding Shift and dragging, we're going to use the duplicate hotkey, which is Control B in PC or Command B in Mac. And if we press it again and again, it'll fill up the rest of the 4 bars. Now, if I press play, it'll sound like this. But where's the piano? Because we just put it into the playlist. Remember that pattern and song picker? We need to go up here and toggle song to make FL play using the playlist or timeline instead of the individual pattern. And this green indicator here, which you can also move by clicking at any point, or even clicking and holding and letting go where you want it to start. Now if we press play, it'll play the whole loop. Alright, wait, there's a problem here though. The crash sounded good the first time, but if it's happening every single bar, it gets pretty annoying and exhausting. And instead of creating a brand new one and just doing quadruple the work and re-inputting the same pattern over and over again, we can simply highlight these drums, press Ctrl G or Command G in Mac, and now it'll group those drums together as one pattern. And as you can see, on this left side, there's now a new unique drum pattern. Let's go into the channel rack by clicking here or pressing F6. You can drag this down. And if your pattern view is too short, you can elongate it by clicking and holding and dragging this arrow on the side of this window to the right. And we can let go where we want to stop. As you can see, this drum pattern here stops up until this grayed out area. So now we can see all the crashes back to back. Let's go ahead and right click to remove the crash. But here's a pro tip. If we put it back and we press and hold right click and we just drag to the left, it'll delete multiple crashes and it won't go into other lanes. Meaning, if I show an example up here with the kicks and I do the same thing, right click, hold, and drag to the left, even if my mouse hovers over the other lane,
good luck everybody else!
it won't delete it, it'll only delete the kicks. Here's another pro tip. If we want to bring back the 4 on the floor pattern with the kick and quickly mark every beat, you can right click here or whatever sample you want to do it to and click here or press 4. And just like that, we have our fully polished drum loop. Let's hear how it sounds now with the piano. Let's go up to the playlist and click on the part where the drums come in and let's press play. Now, obviously this is a very basic beat, but as you can see, the playlist is where we plate everything, gather all of our separate ingredients that we've prepared and cooked to make the overall dish and make a full song. But wait, what if we try our dish and it tastes a little bit bland? Maybe it needs a little bit of sauce or seasoning. And that's where the final icon of death comes in. The mixer. This is where you do all of the sauce and the seasoning, and where we can give more flavor to each ingredient, or polish or finish the sound. Now to find the mixer, it's going to be located at the top over here. If we click, it'll open it up like this. Yours might look a little bit different, and you can select different views by clicking over here and choosing it to be more compact or more wide. And as with all the other windows, you can click and hold and drag to the right of this window to extend it to see more tracks. Now if we just go ahead and press play, you'll see that the sounds aren't even being routed into the mixer. If we go back into the channel rack and click, hold, and drag down to select all of these sounds, go into the mixer, right click on insert one, go to channel routing, and click route selected channels starting from this track. Now we have all of the individual sounds routed into the mixer. So now when we press play, we can see all of the sounds together. And now we have complete control over all of the sounds volumes in one place. So then what do I mean by sauce or seasoning if all it controls is volume? Well, similar to the channel rack, more than just volume, you can also control the panning. But it gets even cooler. Let's go into the FL Keys track, and if we click on this right side over here and we go to select, it'll show you all of the default effects that you have. Now the ones that I use all the time are Fruity Parametric EQ2, which is located right here, and you can even add another one by clicking again, going to select, and let's add a reverb, which is called Fruity Reverb 2. The order in which you place these effects really matters, because first the sound will go through the EQ that we placed at the top, and then the signal will go to the reverb that we placed underneath it. So that means if I change something in the EQ over here, it will be applied to the reverb over here. Whereas if I go in and change a setting in the reverb, it won't go backwards. It'll simply just go down the rest of the chain until it goes directly into the master. So let's go ahead and solo the piano, meaning it'll mute everything else by holding Control or Command and clicking on this green button. And let's go ahead and mute the reverb by clicking on this green button so we can focus on what the EQ is doing first. Let's go ahead and double click the EQ to bring it to the top. And if we press play, it'll help you to actually visualize the sound. You can do some pretty cool things with the EQ, like make it sound muffled, or make it sound brighter. For now, I'm gonna leave it like this. Now, EQs are one of the most important effects that you really need to master as an advanced producer, but we'll be getting into that in a future video. When you think about food and you eat something that's very strong, it only works if there's only one strong flavor, or very few. Music is the same way. If there's a lot of different strong flavors at once that are competing for attention, it can overwhelm the listener and make it hard to follow along. That's why the mixer is so important, because here is where we find the balance of flavor and sound. Now the reason why I talk about that is because the EQ is one of the most important plugins that you can use when mixing. We'll be diving deeper into mixing and the fundamentals in a future video, but for now let's keep on moving. Let's revisit the reverb. We can go over here and let's turn it on by clicking this button right here. And let's go ahead and double click it to bring it back to the front. Now to show you what it really does, we can drag this wet fader right here all the way down so that it's completely dry, which means there is no effect on the sound. But listen to what happens when we slowly increase the wetness. Notice how it starts to sound more roomy. That's basically what reverb is. It'll give sounds space and make it feel big, while also pushing it back in the mix. It almost makes your sound 3D. And not all plugins are gonna have a wet knob. If you go to the right over here in the mixer and you see this white circle, if you click, hold, and drag down, it's the same thing as putting the wetness all the way down. But listen as I slowly increase the value again. This is FL's wet knob for every single plugin that you have and want to use. Now let's unsolo the piano and bring back all of the sounds by holding Control or Command and clicking. When I play the track, I notice that the snare is way too loud. Let's bring it down to balance out the mix a little bit. we can keep adjusting each sound until it sounds good to us. Perfect. Now we know the basics of the mixer. Now we have to talk about a different part of the mixer that's not an icon itself, but is important to understand the basic concept of, and that's the master, or the final dish. So if we go back to FL, you can see that the master is located here on the mixer, and all of the sounds that are in your project go into the master, and this is what we export to have an audio file of our song. Now before we serve our dish or eat it ourselves, sometimes the master might not sound good, and our dish can taste bad, which could be for a variety of reasons. And the most important thing to get it just right is to be able to identify what went wrong, if it's the bad ingredients, if it's overcooked,
or if it's under-seasoned,
and fixing it in that department. Now that we know the fundamentals of all the icons of death, before we export our final product, let's talk about our audio settings. I think we're gonna need to switch hats for this one. Alright, let's head back into the spaceship. If we go to options here, click audio settings, it would be ideal to set it to FL Studio ASIO, but if you don't have that, don't worry about it. Go over here and make sure it's on 48K. This will make your audio sound high quality, including the audio file that you export. Let's go ahead and close this out. And first, let's save our project. We can go to File, hit Save, or press Ctrl S or Command S if you're on Mac. And go ahead and click Save. Now, if you have the free trial, you won't be able to save, but you'll still be able to export. Let's go ahead and go into File, click Export. Let's select Wave. Go ahead and click Save, and make sure to copy these settings for the highest quality export. Here you can also change the output format. Make sure this is set to 32-bit float. This is set to stereo, and the resampling quality on the highest point sync for the highest quality. Take a moment to make sure all of these checkboxes are the same, and we can enable show files when complete to show the folder that has the file in it so that we can quickly locate it. Go ahead and click start. And now it should be here. Now this last part is optional, but the dashboard view I like to go with is different from the default one. If you right click up here, and we go to FL Studio 24 Windows or 24 Mac, go ahead and click it, and it'll give you access to a wider variety of tools and options, which we can get into in a future video. Congratulations, you have officially made your first song in FL Studio, and this is just the beginning. My plan for this whole year is to fast track you from beginner to advanced with guaranteed results. I've structured a step-by-step curriculum so that if you follow along and watch all of the videos, I'll try to get you up to speed with everything that I know. I'll be striving to post every single week about music production education, and since you know the basics now, you'll be ready to go from orientation to execution. If you're serious about learning music production in 2026, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications on. Be sure to like, comment, and share with your friends who also wants to learn music production, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.